Hey, this is Jay from Gorilla ROI. So if you want to know how to price your products properly, how to price it profitably, as well as analyze different margins and scenarios to see what price points are going to work, then keep watching. In a previous video, I recorded a break-even calculator, but this one dives into the details. I'm going to go through the different products and the different aspects of the product, as well as the cost, as well as the COGS, as well as the landed cost, what that really means. And then we're going to dive into the financials, and I'm going to give you a matrix that I use to try and figure out what is the best price that I should be pricing my product at in order to capture as much profit as well as velocity. Okay, so I don't want to price something too high and then make it sell super slow, or I don't want to sell something that's so cheap when I'm leaving money on the table. I've also got a recommendation table, and I'll go over that with you, as well as a final breakdown and detailed analysis of how each scenario works from the original input that I provided, and then it's going to give me an estimate or a different view of if I say increase my price by say 10% or 20%, or if I decrease it, etc. The product I've just entered for whatever reason are workout shorts. Okay, and let's say the target price that I'm originally thinking of after everything is $27. Okay, so I've got little notes here in my spreadsheet, and if you hover over this, you can see what it means. So $27 is the sales price that I want to list on Amazon. The target margin that I want is 40%. So I'm not trying to do this in reverse. I'm actually trying to set my expectations up front and tell the calculator, I want 40% margin. What are the inputs required? What is the price required? What is the COGS required in order to achieve this at a $27 price point? Okay, so it's a bit different to say getting all your cost first, then figuring out what your sales price and determining what your margins are going to be. I'm going in with the expectation that I want a certain margin. The business expenses I've explained previously are things that are going to be for operations plus say your advertising as well. Okay, a lot of people tend to forget that advertising is part of your operating expense. On Amazon, because we spend so much money and our number one expense on Amazon is the PPC and the advertising, we tend to think of it as its own individual item. But the reality is it's part of your operating expenses. And so when you want to know what your total amount is, it's much easier to go into, say, QuickBooks, get the last quarter, the last 6 months of the last year, and then find what that percentage is, find what your total operating expense is by dividing the total expense by the sales. Here's some rules of thumb that I quickly put down. If you have 15%, that's extremely efficient, very lean, and it's most likely represents a small seller or somebody with low operations who is not focused on scaling. If you're at 20%, that's more of a moderate operating expense, especially for an Amazon business, because if you're, say, getting products from China and then you're shipping it directly into AWD or FBA, then you don't have to worry about your office. You don't have to worry about a warehouse, etc. So your operations are still pretty lean. Now, once you get above 20%, that's when things are a bit more expensive, and it assumes that you're running a business that is focused on growth. So you've got multiple maybe warehouses, or maybe you have a big warehouse, you've got multiple employees, you're scaling, you're reinvesting. So it's not so much about the bottom line right now, but it's more about the top line growth and growing that equity of your business. For my example, I like to put it as 20% because I'm just thinking, hey, it's a 1 or 2 person business. Everything is handled by Amazon. I'm not really doing anything. I'm not even selling on my own shop because I don't want to deal with the hassles of having to find somebody or having a 3PLs take all the margin, having to ship directly to customers. Here's something that I will change, because if it's clothing, there's no way the discount rate is going to be 2.3%. At a minimum, it's going to be fairly 5 or 7%. But because these are shorts, Okay, so it's not like a different type of styles or leggings where you have to pay real close attention to your fitment. So let's do 8% on the discounts and refunds. On the sales tax, I'm going to leave this out for 0 because this is going to be assumed for the seller. Okay, so if you're in the US, your price is going to be 27 plus tax anyways. So that's for the non-US people to include. Now, I've got all of my assumptions here. I've got my business assumptions. These are the variables and the expectations that I have. And now I want to go in and figure out, will workout shorts work for my business based on what my criteria is? You can see that I'm being strict with my requirements and I'm not trying to force a product, not trying to force a deal here. If after everything is said and done, if these costs don't make sense and it doesn't meet my target margin, then I'm not going to do it, right? There's no point. There's so many other products that I can do that I don't have to force a deal. And that's where a lot of issues and people fail on Amazon, because they become infatuated with an idea, they fall in love, and then they force a product which they never should have done in the first place. So the shorts, let's say it's $5.40. It's going to come in a nice poly mailer bag, so it's 20 cents for that. I'm going to have a string tied workout shorts, okay? So 10 cents extra on that because it's going to be a premium string. Okay, and I want my logo rather than just having a generic China brand. I want to at least make it respectable. I want to grow my brand, and so I'm going to have my logo. Plus, I'm also going to throw in a sticker. When people get the shorts, give them a sticker. They can slap it on their laptops or on something, on their book, etc., and hopefully build that brand like that. So these are the costs related to the product. So $6.40. That's my step 2. Step 3 is now figuring out, okay, what other cogs are there? Because the product starts at the supplier end, but that's not all there is. There's a lot of soft costs, a lot of variable cost that is going to be involved. So freight cost, figuring out whether the tariffs are going to be that extra, whether it's going to have like an extra 25% tariff, whether you're shipping directly to Amazon, or whether you're going to ship it to a prep center or another intermediary warehouse before sending it to Amazon. And so if you do that, you have to add that extra leg onto the final product. Now, is anybody going to have touch points? So is anybody going to repack it, check it, quality control, etc.? If yes, then you can enter whatever you need to do. The beauty with a spreadsheet is that I can actually let's say I want to insert something else. So I'm going to insert row, insert cells, and then I can shift it down. I can add these extra things, extra items. Okay, but I'm going to undo that. Just keep it simple. Now I know what my FBA fee is, my clothing fees based on what it shows up on the Seller Central. 15% the referral fee, and then it's telling me my true product cost is not $6.40. My true landed cost at Amazon's warehouse is $7.25. And since this whole video, this whole pricing is about an Amazon product, I'm assuming my landed cost is not from China to US, but from China to everything in between up to Amazon's fulfillment center. And so that price is $7.25. Now let's look at the calculation. So once I've plugged in all of this information, the yellow is all the input variables that you need to enter. So I like to format it so that whenever I see a yellow cell with blue text, that's always an input. I don't need to bother about trying to update formulas. Anything where it's a white is a formula down here. So you see that all of these are white and these are formulas. With all the inputs that I've entered, you'll now see that the target price after the net sales, because I've done a refund of 8%, it's not $27. The net sales is $24.84. Okay, so a lot of people tend to forget this because they just enter this. A lot of the calculators just plug this in, 27, and then they assume that your price is going to be 27. Okay, you have to enter in your either discounts, how often you're running, say, ads or lightning deals or refunds, and you factor that in to get your net sales. Now, my COGS is 63.2. Okay, that's really high. And then my gross margin comes out as 36.8. Note above how I'm trying to go for 40%. So this is below. Now you could say that, oh, it's pretty close. Maybe I should risk it. What you should do instead is see if there's anything here that you can either eliminate or bring your price down to get this up to 40%. So let's say I'm just launching this brand new, right? Maybe I don't need that sticker. Okay, I'm gonna set this to 0. That changes everything, that changes that, okay? Because before it's 7.25, and now if I change it to 0, it becomes 7.05, and now let's see, it's 37.6. Okay, so it's getting there, but it's still not there. Let's say I don't want to add that string, but it's still not gonna be there. It's 38%, so I still need 2%. This is how you can adjust and really think about what you need versus what you want. Maybe in the beginning, I shouldn't go with the logo. But then I think to myself, okay, that's going to be a bad idea because there's like a million other sellers shipping directly from China the exact same shorts with no logo. So I need to be separated. I need to be a cut above all of those other generic brands. So this is a must. So this is a must. Packaging obviously is a must. Shorts, obviously that's the whole product. So really, the only other aspect that I would focus on here is trying to figure out if I can change the shorts or get a better price point to bring this down to say $5, which would get me so close to 40% that I may be able to work with this number. Okay, so that's a reduction of 10% that I need from the factory. And then you come up with your creative juices, start negotiating with the factory and see, hey, Mr. Supplier, if you give me the price, right, I will try to give you the terms. Instead of $5.40, and if you give me $5, maybe I can double my inventory but purchasing, say, over a 12-month period or paying it down every quarter. Or give me, say, net 60, net 90, but I will pay you the full amount when I can. Or maybe increasing the quantity will give you some other sort of terms. And so there's a lot of way to structure deals. There's a lot of way to communicate and try to make a deal with the supplier in order to find a way that will work, right? Because again, you don't want to force a product at a lower margin. I would not suggest trying to change these variable costs that are included and that must be included. There's really nothing that you can really change here. You have no control over tariffs, you have no control over taxes, you have no control over the government. The only control that you have is the product itself and whether it's a go or no go. So the main financials that we can select and that I've created a selected financial statement based on the inputs. So you got the gross margins, you got your operating margins, and it's telling you, okay, based on that, your gross profit ROI, this is your ROI based on how much your gross profit is going to be 150%. And so that's fantastic, right? You should always try to aim for 40% unless you're doing really low-end pricing, max volume. Next part of this is then a recommendation this spreadsheet gives me about the product itself. So I've customized this to check whether it meets my requirements. I don't want to go through all this and then it just does everything for me, gives me a quick yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Like for example, let's say this was $10. Okay, it's going to tell me that, okay, it's a bad margin price combo. There's bad margins, bad pricing, bad. So I know immediately, okay, this is bad. Let's move on. But if I change it like this, it can give me an output as to what my insights are and give me an analysis of what that is. I've created a pie chart here to show me visually the cost breakdown as well. So of the total sales, what percentage is the product? So 38% is the margin. Freight or product cost takes up 38%. FBA is 29, etc. Amazon takes up 27%, blah, blah, blah. And so this gives me a breakdown of how this pie chart is organized. You can see the detailed calculations with all of this. Okay, so this is based on my target margin. If I want 40%, I need to get it or sell it at 29.7. So that's what I forgot here, where if I want to really bring this up to 40%, it's telling me that I need to bring it up to say 29.7. So if I do 29.7, then it's going to put me way above 40%. And so it's going to be a healthy amount. I can keep playing around with this and then see that, okay, I'm at a really healthy level. So the recommended is like 28, great. So instead of 27, I should really go for 28. Maybe I can keep it at $5.40 if this really was the lowest the supplier was able to give me. Maybe I want to keep the string, keep the sticker. Let's see what that did. 38.5. And so if that's the case, maybe 29 will actually be the price, and you have to test whether a $29 is going to be supported by the market or not, whether there's demand at $29 or whether that cutoff threshold is $27. You know, that's up to you. So you've got the detailed calculations. It gives you based on this. So the first column gives you an idea of where it should be based on what my requirements are versus what it is currently based on whatever the product and the pricing is. Okay. So let me change this back to 27. I've got all of this. And then so you can see that based on the 27, these are the numbers, but to get to where I want to be, it's recommending that I put in 29.7 for these margins, etc. And then on the right side, you can see a little table, a chart, a bar chart, where you can see the breakdown of the profitability and the profit and loss. And you can see if you're a visual person. And then this is the more detailed version of my selected financials up here. This is a selected, which means technically that I'm selecting the main points. The detailed version is right here, and it's going to give you the different scenarios of, hey, if your price point is currently at 27, this is your net sales. Let's say you increase your price by like say 15%, then this is what's going to happen. And you can see the different scenarios that would happen. So right now, if I started off with 36.8, I can immediately say that, hey, my next tier up is at 41.6. What's this price point that I need to be at? It syncs up at 29.7. So add another 10% to the target price, and I'm going to get gross profit margins of 41%. I've got a great ROI of 154%, and my operating margin is very healthy at 21%. And so these are the final comments that the spreadsheet spits out, gives me some recommendation and some insights. And by following this systematic method and then not trying to force too much emotions into it, just keeping it objective, I'm able to figure out whether I'm able to continue with this product or whether it's a hero or it's a loser. So I hope that helps. This is what I call our product pricing calculator.